Yeah, so the students will be running for Tiger Talk and Superintendent Spotlight. They're going to run the cameras, and we're going to switch cameras over here. So give them something to do.
Nice.
And they'll be freshmen, so it should be fairly interesting. We had a little run through yesterday. It was eye-opening for them because they couldn't talk. Because we're in the same room. If we're in there and we have headsets on, you can tell the camera operator exactly what you want. But here you have these hand signals and just trust they have a good shot for you.
Yeah.
It was hard for them to concentrate and then like have multi-focus. They can't do it. I'm like, man, when I was in that age, I was directing in public access. And
Different world now, Pete.
I can do that. They get lost in their phones. It's single focus.
I know.
That's why there's so many pedestrian accidents lately. Walk on the phone, walk around the traffic. No problem. I see it all the time.
I had a couple of college kids and I was like, can you stop the show? I was like, college.
Oh, they're worse.
And I come back to Mr. Later and he said, well, you didn't tell me how to open the case of food. I was like, fine. You got hands, you have scissors.
Use your teeth. I don't care.
Find the proper utensil and get it done.
Oh my gosh.
Well, that's the thing. Most college kids nowadays haven't been exposed to it. They don't. Most of them don't work. They'll play sports and that's it. If they do work, then it's like I don't know.
So is there a break built in, like their songs? Or
Oh yeah, we do. We'll break it every 20 minutes. So 7:27, 6:26 before the top of the hour, 7:27 for you. So stretch your legs. It's late.
I'm sick of these students already. I'm getting tired of these students, Patrick. They didn't do the board set again.
What do you gonna do?
I gotta try to run. I got an idea.
I got an idea.
It just pisses me off when they continue to pull this crap. There's a big note on the board saying, but you know.
Live from the campus of Westfield State
Big
University.
huge note on the board
This
saying,
is
leave this info
89.5
on.
FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating
playing the
Supply
web
Company,
player off-
an independent, family-owned
off the profit
wholesaler
machine, 'cause I know that's
serving
not
Westfield
gonna
for
be
over
worse.
50 years,
Craps out.
specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping
Good thing I
supplies.
checked.
On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield, Mass. Wow. Straight up 6 a.m., Pete. You're getting pretty good at this. It's like you've done this once or twice. Except on Thursdays. Usually on Thursdays we run, we're at 6:02, 6:03, but I don't know how you do it the rest of the week. I'm usually not up at 6. Sorry to the rest of you folks, but 6
I do my best.
Yeah, it's all right. You know, for the millions of dollars you're getting paid, Pete, we should expect more out of you.
Sure.
It is Thursday, October 25th, 2018. It's a little bit cloudy right now, partly cloudy, but it will become clear as the day goes on. Not all that warm. Its temperature right now is about 36 or so, depending on where you are. This is one of those funky times of year where the temperature can change pretty dramatically depending on where you are. If you're out in Russell, Blandford, it's probably closer to freezing. If you're on the other side of Westfield, it's probably closer to 40. So temperatures could change dramatically from where you are. So just be careful out there. However, no chance of rain. Sun comes up at 7:16. Will be mostly clear at a high temperature of about 48 today. Tomorrow, Friday, the 26th, be about 52 with partly sunny skies. And then all hell breaks loose on Saturday. If you listen to the forecasters, it's a nor'easter, a non-snow nor'easter on Saturday. It does not look good. It's they're talking about 2
Windy,
inches.
rainy, ugly.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Just a nasty, miserable day. Temperatures don't change much. The low is 40, the high is 47. Like I said, a really miserable day. Windy and rainy and yucky. So that's the forecast for Saturday. But that'll blow through by overnight hours into Sunday. And then Sunday is mostly dry and 58. So big changes for the weekend. That's what's going on in your weather. Hold on, I forgot my iPad this morning, so I'm trying to switch apps on my phone to look at the news. In the news, local news that you'll find both in print later today and up online at westfieldnews.com. Last night was the third annual Glow Walk on the rail trail. The Friends of the Columbia Greenway Rail Trail started hosting that a few years ago. It's an interesting event because it takes place right at dusk. So as this you start in the daylight and then you go through dusk and you end in the dark. So it's kind of a neat event. Yeah, some kids hit their bikes and stuff dressed up with some Christmas lights. Go figure. So that was last night. My new reporter Peter Courier was on it. Peter just started with us about a week and a half ago. I've had him running around.
That name sounds familiar. Wasn't he an intern at one point?
You, Peter, look at you.
I pay attention to this.
Pays attention. Yes, Peter Courier graduated. He interned with us in the spring of his senior year, which was 2017, January through May of 2017, and did well, graduated, and he's from the Boston area, and then as would have it with a lot of young men, love led him back west, so he's back in the Westfield area, and he was looking for work, and I needed a reporter, and it worked out perfectly. So anyway, so Peter's back. Speaking of Peter, he was on Tuesday, the Westfield Drug Task Force, Drug Awareness Task Force. What was Kathy's?
I think it's Drug Awareness Task Force, yeah.
I think it's just the Drug Task Force.
Simpler the better, yeah, probably.
Probably. So anyway, so Kathy Sittler from the City of Westfield, the Drug Task Force, hosted an event at the Genesis Spiritual Center on Mill Street. They had quite a few priests and ministers from a lot of the different parishes around the greater Westfield area to educate those folks on how to deal with their parishioners and the struggles their parishioners may have with substance abuse. This is actually a story that moved Peter. It was interesting. He came to me yesterday afternoon. He's like, this was a tough one to do. There were a couple of speakers in there that just really kind of caught him. So anyway, we've got that today. Down in Southwick, Greg Fitzpatrick mentioned a couple weeks ago about a fire hydrant flushing project that's getting underway. And also, speaking of fire department in Southwick, they just received some new pieces of equipment for pet health safety. So that's an interesting one. And then it is the tail end of the fall sports season, which means Chris Putz is running crazy, trying to cover all these local high school sporting events. Couple of young golfers, Matt Garrity out of Southwick, and Willem Borg, sorry if I forgot your first name, out of St. Mary's, golfed exceptionally well this week. So, and they're moving on to other events next week. So, good luck to those kids. And then all the high school sports teams are doing well. Westfield High School football playing again this Friday night. This game is really, according to Chris Putz, for seedings for the tournament. So, it's still nonetheless a good game. So that's what's going on in your world. At 6:06 a.m., we're live back here at the Westfield Technical Academy Multimedia Studio, I think is what
Actually, Rob dubbed it Studio 1A.
Studio 1A?
Yes.
Where's 1B?
It'll be at the high school once we get some money.
Where's 2B? Or not 2B?
I don't know. That's not your question.
Bad. Oh, nice one. Anyway, we're here at Studio 1A at the Westfield Technical Academy, and joining me this week is a young woman. This is Rebecca Hart from the Westfield Food Pantry, and this is one of those nondescript little places here in Westfield that most people don't really think about, but it is plays a very important role here in Westfield. So, good morning, Rebecca. Thank you for joining me.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me.
I know it's early.
Just a smidge.
I know it's 2 hours, but it will all go by fast, and we'll go back to our real jobs. But thank you very much, like I said, for joining me. I do want to get the word out as we enter the holiday season. Yes, I said the holiday season, and yes, I know it's only October, but this is the time of year where most people think about the food pantry and donating food and the soup kitchens and all these other sorts of things. But it is a 12-month a year, 365 a day a year facility that I want to talk, and I want you to share with the listeners really the needs, what you guys do on a day-to-day basis, maybe some of the stories of the folks that come in, because I have to imagine you can't imagine the stories are everyday people.
That's right.
You know, so I want you to share some of that. But before we get into all that, tell us a little bit about you. I mean, who you are, where'd you grow up, how'd you get this role, and so forth.
So I grew up in Providence, Rhode Island until I was 11, and then I moved to Holland, Massachusetts, which was
What a change.
I remember saying
from
that-
about, what, 400,000 people to
Yeah.
4,000, not even, 40 people. I don't even know how many are in Holland.
I don't know. All I know is I said, Mom, I'm going to ride my bike around the block. She said, no, you're not. And
That's
there I
funny.
took off. I was like, oh, wait, there aren't blocks. And then settled in Southwick and graduated from Southwick High. I attended college at Roger Williams University.
Back in Rhode Island.
Back in Rhode Island.
There you go.
And majored in public administration.
Oh, okay.
So I'm in my field.
Good.
I had always been interested in nonprofit sector, and the position opened up at Westfield Food Pantry, and I've been here about 9 years.
Really, that long already?
That long already.
Wow.
So prior to that, I worked for the town of Southwick as an intern, and then was hired there. And this change has been great for me. I've really enjoyed what I've done at the pantry. I love the freedom to assess the need and meet the needs of the people of the community. And I've really loved Westfield. I bought a home in Westfield 5 years ago. I have 2 children.
Wow.
I have a son who's 5 and a 6-month-old daughter.
Wow.
So this is really early.
Well, not really. The 6 months old's usually
She
up,
was
right?
up. She was up when I left. She was ready to go. So yeah, I really enjoyed Westfield. I like the sense of community. It's funny. It's a city, but it feels like almost like a small town.
Exactly.
And I really
a
like
lot
that.
of people say that. You know, it's 42,000 people strong, but everybody knows each other. It really is a small town. So is your position, is it a full-time position? Is it a part-time position?
So I'm part-time. I work 20 hours a week, and we have about 16 volunteers every single week that run the actual food distribution. We have a board members that help with fundraising and the oversight of the organization, but the day-to-day is really handled by our distribution volunteers.
So I know I asked you this off air before we went on. What is the official name of the facility, so people know?
So Westfield Food Pantry, and our legal entity is Greater Westfield Emergency Food Pantry.
Okay, so when you hear it referred to as both, it's the same thing?
It's the same thing.
Okay, and where are you located?
We're located at 101 Meadow Street, which
Okay,
is...
it's the corner of
That's right, White Street.
White Street, thank you.
And Meadow Street.
So White Street, if I recall correctly, for those longtime Westfield listeners, I believe just up White Street is where the old Casey Ice used to be, right?
I don't know.
I don't know. Pete, you have that?
Do you know?
No, ooh, Pete doesn't even know that. I think it was White Street. I'm sure Danny Nason will probably chime in momentarily to correct me if I'm wrong. But anyway, so for those of you, so your bearings, it's on Meadow Street, corner of White, 101 Meadow.
In the former Hotel Westfield.
Exactly.
That large brick building.
The large brick building. So that brings up a good question. What's above it?
So
what takes place in that building?
So above our low to moderate income housing, it's a project of Domus.
Okay.
And so folks rent apartments there and live and work,
And live their lives, right?
just live their lives.
So just because your facility is located on the ground floor, it's got no relation to what's above you.
No relation, but I have to say it's been a blessing having folks in the area, because if we receive a delivery or someone wants to donate, there's usually able-bodied folks who are happy to help if they're coming or going from work or whatever they're doing.
So what are the hours?
We're open Monday, Tuesday, and Friday from 10 a.m. till noon, and we're open Thursday evenings from 5:30 to 6:30.
So, and what can people get there? What services do you guys offer?
So we primarily are a food pantry, which means that we provide food that folks are going to take home and prepare in their own homes. We have a basic box that we call it that has pasta sauce, soup, fruit, mac and cheese, tuna fish, beans, vegetables, and then we have add-ons. So folks have the choice of meat choices. Like right now we have whole chickens, or we had chicken wings, that sort of stuff. We'll have eggs. Sometimes we have milk. Milk is very expensive, so we don't have it often.
And the items that you have, where do they come from? Is it from donors? Do you guys have a budget? Do you go to, the Price Right, Big Y, Stop and Shop, buy things? Where does where do the items come from?
So a little bit of all of that.
Okay.
So every day from Big Y and Stop and Shop in town, we pick up all their bread and dessert that has
Day old. Okay.
And that is over 200 pounds a day of bread and dessert that comes in and goes out. And we also have our annual food drive with the letter carriers of Western Mass, so the Stamp Out Hunger. And that brings in anywhere from 10,000 pounds of a low till 19,000 of a high. And so it depends a lot on whether they put the bags out.
Right.
And if the bags go out, we tend to do a little bit better. And of course, the rain, the dreaded rain.
Yeah. And I know, I'm trying to, actually I shouldn't say that. I forgot. When is the letter carrier campaign?
It's always Mother's Day weekend.
Okay, for some reason, I thought it was earlier in the year. I didn't think it was coming up. Okay, it's always Mother's Day weekend.
It is, and that's great. That gets us through the lean times of the summer. As you had mentioned in the beginning, this time of year, folks always think to donate, but hunger doesn't really know a season. People are hungry all the time, especially the 1,200 folks we serve a month. Half of that, 51%, are children. So when they're not in school and not receiving free and reduced lunch, we try to fill that gap.
It's interesting, because of what you guys do, the Westfield Soup Kitchen, which is located in your same facility, even though it's not related, the Westfield Boys and Girls Club offers me, there's a lot of, when you stop and think about, some of these community partners and how they help the community, by offering food, sustainability, through nutrition, it's mind-boggling. You think of the amount of mouths and the amount of people that you guys feed on a daily, monthly basis. It really, a lot of people think Westfield, and we've done it in the Westfield News, is you think Westfield is being a more affluent community. And it is interesting because Westfield is number 2 in Western Mass for the amount of millionaires. Long Meadow is number 1. Westfield and Wilbraham are tied for number 2. However, so people, you hear that, and people don't think, oh, well, Westfield doesn't have this hunger problem, but you see it every day.
I see it every day, and I've been here long enough to see sort of the continuum of where things have been and where they're going, and the demographics of who we're serving have really changed. We're seeing lots of people employed, 40% employment, full-time employment coming to a food pantry.
Wow.
And these are folks like your medical assistants when you go to the doctor, pharmacy technicians, people that work in restaurants, people who work for the schools, people who are autism specialists, things like that. They're making minimum wage, sometimes less than minimum wage if they have contracts. And they're not able to feed their families.
They've got good jobs, but those jobs just don't pay enough to feed themselves or their family.
That's right.
Wow.
And the cost of housing in Westfield is so high.
The cost of housing everywhere right now is high, but this community is interesting because it goes from suburban to rural to urban in one city.
Within a few blocks.
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling. But and that's why a lot of people love Westfield, is because it is so diverse, it's nice. But like I say, a lot of people don't understand the hunger needs here in town. We all think we've got it good, but again, don't judge somebody. You don't know. As you mentioned, there could be employees of the Westfield school system who are, I don't know if you call them customers, patrons, or
we call them clients.
Clients of yours. It's kind of sad.
We've made more of an effort lately to understand some of the stories and the circumstances of some of our clients. I've been involved over the years, but lately, like I said, I've seen so many folks that
you
can tell tell they're educated. You can tell that they are there for a specific reason.
Well, how do you? And again, I hate to use the word, but stigma of what the person looks like that needs your help. and you say you've been around long enough to see how it's changed over the years, and you go back, and it's hard to imagine. 10 years ago was the big recession.
Right.
Prior to that it was a different world. But even since that, which is just about the time you've been in your role, it's changed dramatically. During one of our segments this morning, I want to talk about, the person that you see. Some of these stories that you come across. I mean, you've kind of caught me off guard with the one about the schools. People who work in your local school districts, whether it's Westfield or not, just don't have enough to eat.
Right.
And it's it's frightening.
The other thing that I think is even more alarming to me is the amount of people coming in the age bracket of, I would say, like 24 to about 30 under crushing student loan debt.
Oh.
I have a pharmacist
Wow.
who has a $4,000 a month repayment.
Wow.
And he's recently divorced, and so between child support and his loan repayment,
Can't do it.
he's not eating. And he heard about it from a pharmacy technician, and we were happy to able to help. And that's something we pride ourselves, and I deeply pride myself on, is respecting the dignity of our clients,
Right.
making sure everyone feels like, we take care of them. When you come in, we never rush people, especially our elderly clients. Sometimes we're the only person they talk to all day,
Yeah.
or all week even.
Right.
So we want to get to know them, and also if there's other services we can refer them to. But really, who is using the pantry has changed dramatically. It's not, everyone thinks it's the guy on the street
Yeah, right.
collecting bottles. And we do serve those folks, because everyone has to eat.
Exactly.
Everyone has to eat. And we can get into that later, but that piece of the person who's on the street most likely is mentally ill. And that
Sure.
is a huge population that we serve, folks that don't have access to quality care.
Right. Yeah, we're coming up on 6:20 for our first break of the morning. Rebecca Hart, Executive Director of the Westfield Food Pantry, is my guest this morning. It's not a happy topic, but it's an interesting topic.
Well, I have actually some exciting stories to share about people who've gone up and out and how they've come back to pay it forward.
Very good. We're going to take a break. Thanks some of our underwriters, and we'll be right back.
All of a sudden, the person.
Yeah. So one of our guys, he noticed a huge influx of donations through CMS, like out of the funeral. And I go, I know you.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I had surgery, plus pantry, we both like, and
Once in a while, the fire department used to get stuff. They used to drop off the towel and stuff to the fire department.
Yep, we've done that. Somehow, lumberyard got taken. They brought them to the high shelf. They stopped the bus.
We're looking at a parent in the schools making $12 an hour.
Right.
Well, I mean, but that's, my wife was a parent here, my ex-wife, 10 months a year, they're 10-month employees, so we either gotta find something in Park and Rec in the summer, or,
Way overpaid for it.
yeah. But, like Mike McKay's wife was here. She wanted to work, and she's a parent. Well, but any job, I mean, the hospital has jobs that are, porters and stuff like that, custodians
What's going on here?
Brian's got the door, he's working on the doors, we got the rack and wheels, I gotta start mounting equipment. I told that pallet has to disappear by the dinner, and so does all the construction equipment. Right? I know.
Is that all ceiling?
Yeah, that's a whole pile of ceiling. So they bought extras. We're gonna store some away, but I said it's gotta be out of here. And all the painting supplies. I don't have a lot of stuff in here. You know? Most of these kids. I at least want to have it presentable. I said, we don't have to be done. It has to be presentable. I keep using the studio to keep forcing the issue in a nice way.
I like it.
He's only one guy, and he's our buildings guy for the entire city. We ran out of money, so he's doing the rest of it. I can't push him because if he said that I'm done.
Right, we're on that fine line.
Yeah.
Now are the students, can the students here help at all now?
No. They don't do painting and finish work.
Support for the community programming of
That's what we ran into the first time.
WSKB
They
is
don't do
provided
finish
by
work,
Bay
they
State
do
Dental.
The rough stuff.
Comprehensive
And
dentistry at 14
by
convenient
the time we got
locations
to the
in
point where we could do it, we
Springfield,
had to hire a
Chicopee,
contractor
Long
to do all
Meadow,
that
West
because they were
Springfield,
done.
Belchertown, East Long Meadow, Ludlow, Northampton,
Electrical-
Greenfield,
well, I already
and
did all the
Wilbraham,
electrical in here.
as well as 29 Broad Street in Westfield. Bay State Dental makes it a priority to help you achieve and maintain the healthy smile you deserve. On the web at baystatedental.com. Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield.
Wednesday mornings from 6 till 8, it's Tina Gorman with Wake Up Wednesday.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from the campus of Westfield State University. This is 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Live around the world.
You're listening to the Westfield News Radio Show on WSKB 89.5 FM Westfield.
Here's your host, the owner of the Westfield News Group, Patrick Barry.
Good morning again, everybody. 6:23 a.m. If you're laying in bed listening to the sultry sound of my voice, Red Sox are up 2-0. How about them apples? Huh? Easily handled the... I shouldn't say easily. I got to tell you,
Nothing was easy. I watched that game.
Last night, I'm not a big Price fan. I have to admit, I'm not a big Price fan. And I was really nervous, but luckily they came from behind. I finally nodded off when it was 4-2. After the fifth inning, and so I'm happy I didn't miss anything in the 6th through 9th. So we head back to L.A. Teams are on their way there. And what a dramatic difference! The forecast for the weekend in Los Angeles is in the mid to upper 80s.
Yes, I was watching the game down at Tap.
Oh, at the casino?
Yeah.
How was that?
It's a huge screen. It was a lot of fun.
Were you in the indoor or the outdoor?
Indoor.
Because don't they have a huge TV in the plaza?
They do, but it was cold out there last night. What are you, nuts?
There were 40,000 people at Fenway. You want to talk cold?
Yeah, they paid their tickets. I'd rather watch it in some comfort.
So yes, the teams head back to Los Angeles Friday, Saturday, Sunday in L.A. for the games. Temps in the mid to upper 80s out there. So this series really benefits the Red Sox. Red Sox,
they might not come back to Fenway. It's very simple that they could wrap it up out there.
You know, and I was thinking about this. This is what, 2004, 2007, 2013. This will be the fourth World Series if they win, the fourth World Series championship in the modern Red Sox world.
Yeah.
And not one of them has been won at home, right? They swept St. Louis, swept Colorado. So both were won in St. Louis and Colorado respectively, and then they played St. Louis again in 13, but won again in St. Louis. So who knows? You don't know. Anyway, back to the weather. It's 41 degrees outside your door right now and dark. It will get brighter, I guarantee it. It has to happen. It's science. It will get up to 48 degrees today. Tomorrow, a little bit warmer, 53. And then if you were thinking about pumpkin picking on Saturday, maybe a corn maze,
trunk or treats,
anything like that, you may want to rethink all of that. I would recommend getting a boat because it's going to be a monsoon. It is. They're talking about 2 inches of rain on Saturday. The first nor'easter of the year, and nor'easter with rain, so no snow. It's not going to be cold enough to snow, thank God. Although I did see yesterday 18 inches of snow at the top of Mount Washington up in New Hampshire.
I believe that.
So, and that wasn't their first snowfall. That was just what they got yesterday. Yikes. So anyway, nor'easter.
There was snow up in Maine about 5 or 6 days ago. Up in Paris.
Mount Greylock had snow, a week or two ago. Top of Mount Grey. It was only there for a few hours.
My uncle, who's 80, sent out a picture of snow on his car.
Nice. So anyway, Saturday not looking so good. Sunday, the front passes. Sunday dries out. Sunday's high is 55. Monday, another batch of rain, about 60% chance of rain on Monday, 53. And then 50, 54, and 59 next week, Tuesday through Thursday, mostly sunny skies. And then as you head into November, which, by the way, next Wednesday is Halloween. So next weekend is the beginning of November. This Friday, actually this Saturday, is the Rag Shag downtown.
Right.
Ooh, that's not looking good.
No.
That's not looking good. This Friday night, downtown Westfield is downtown merchant trick-or-treating, 4 to 6 p.m. So if you've got a young kiddo looking for something to do, maybe break in that costume a few days early before Halloween, come downtown. Swing by the Westfield News. Grab some free candy. What the heck? Hey, parents, stop in. Grab some candy. Say hello. The more you guys take at the Westfield News, the less I get to eat. So
we'll be doing our part.
Thank you. So that's what's going on. That lovely voice you just heard is Rebecca Hart. She is the executive director of the Westfield Food Pantry. Good morning again.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So as I was thinking about having Rebecca on the show a while ago because one of the thoughts is, as we enter the holiday season, minds go towards giving. It's the giving season. Mm-hmm. But it's also known as the eating season, too, and not all of us have enough to eat. So Rebecca was a good choice to come on here in October because as we enter the next 8 weeks of life, a lot happens personally, professionally. You've got your own personal parties, your own holiday work parties, whatever it might be, gathering with friends and family. But there are many people out there that don't have the opportunity and easy access for food, which brings Rebecca on the air with us today. Rebecca you've been at your job about 9 years, right?
Yeah.
You've been at the Westfield Food Pantry, and I want you to share with us the change that you've seen in the 9 years. You know, the type of person that maybe was a regular visitor 9 years ago to the type of person that's a fairly regular person today. The economy's changed dramatically in those nine years. Pay scales have changed. I mean, the world around us has changed a lot in those 9 years. So how have you seen your clients of the food pantry? How's that changed in your time?
So the biggest change I've seen is the number and percentage of people we're serving that are fully employed, full-time employees.
Really?
However, full-time today often means no benefits, high deductible insurance.
Mm-hmm.
I myself am in that bracket.
Yeah. And let me interrupt. I own the Westfield News. I've got 40 employees,
Mm-hmm.
and I've owned it for 7.5 years. Even in those 7.5 years, when I started, we had health care.
Right.
Company-sponsored health benefits. It got to a point where it was way too expensive for me as an employer to offer that to the staff. And then Mass Health came out, and Mass Health was offering something better than I could offer.
Right.
So I to save money. So I understand that point is, full-time job, no benefits. It's not like it once was.
And the income brackets have changed for Mass Health and some other public assistant programs. So you definitely have a significant larger population of working poor.
Right.
People that are working at minimum wage or a little bit above minimum wage who don't qualify for public assistance but still can't feed their families, can't even feed themselves.
Wow.
When I first came, there's always kind of the fringes of society who aren't able to meet the demands. And New England is a really hard place to live. It's really expensive. Housing is really expensive. Mm-hmm. Heating, cooling, all those expenses. And that's sort of who I think people think about when they think about people coming to a food pantry. And that definitely is part of our clients. And as you had you and I had said, everyone has to eat. It's a basic need.
Right.
But now I'm seeing so many more people who are employed, people who work in the schools, people who work at doctors' offices. A lot of
Full-time employees of well-known companies, industries, that just can't make ends meet anymore.
Absolutely. Or they're just one disaster away from being homeless or being without food. Things like an unforeseen illness or having to take time off work. A lot of people are in the position where they're raising children and taking care of elderly parents. So multi-generational homes.
It's funny you say that. One incident away from catastrophe is, and there have been a lot of articles in the last decade about that sort of thing since the economy changed. And, and there are so many families that have a smile on their face, but you don't know what's going on behind that. You're absolutely right. And you think about, how the advances in medicine, how they're great. We're able to detect. Oh, power went out. That was interesting. Okay. I can hear myself, so that means we're doing good. But, but what I was saying is, the advances in medicine, we're able to identify things. But because of that, you might get diagnosed with, God forbid, something, but that's catastrophic. You don't make enough money that all of a sudden you add these medical bills onto it. One thing can throw your whole world off, and that's where you need the assistance of, the services you guys provide.
Yeah, we've had just such a change. I've had a family of 6. They have 4 children. The father and husband had a phenomenal job, like greater than $125,000 a year job.
Oh.
Did the right thing, saved their money. He was downsized out of his job, and there are no jobs really readily available at that income around here.
And probably for what his specialty is. Yeah,
right.
You're right.
So after about 6 or 7 months,
savings is gone.
4 teenagers.
Right.
They ended up in the pantry. And they've adjusted their lifestyle, and they're trying to figure out how they're going to make it work. But companies are in the position where they can hire 2 people for his one salary. People are willing to work for a lot less than they ever have, or work without benefits. Being a contractor is sort of the new normal of what I'm seeing.
Oh, absolutely. And it's, we're fortunate. My wife is able to work out of the house, and she's been doing it for 15 years. But again, the change in industry. I remember when I was new. You had to be in the office every single day. Now it's different. So. Just the change in the working environment has thrown people off. What used to be a comfortable environment of I go in, I've got this steady job, I do it every single day. All of a sudden, you're downsized. You're doing more work for equal or less money, and it puts a strain on a lot of things.
Work never ends now because of technology.
Oh God, don't get me going.
I mean, your email, your text.
You're exactly right.
You really, no one. I don't think most people don't work 9 to 5 anymore.
No, and and we're kind of getting off a little bit, but Massachusetts is trying to implement, or they have implemented. In my world, it really affects me because it's a news business. It's 24/7. So if I text somebody or email somebody outside of their normal working time, then they're on the job, and you got to pay them for that. And it's just, it's a strange world. But
it's a complicated problem because it's a strain on employers,
right?
And then it's also, is it fair to employees? And it's
right.
You can see it both ways.
Exactly.
We have made more of an effort at the food pantry to understand some of the clients' stories and what has brought them there. And as I shared with you earlier, we had so many of our clients are so kind and polite and well-spoken. And a gentleman in his 30s, early 30s, came in, and he had been coming in. And so I just started talking to him. Just tell me a little bit about, what brought you here? Because a lot of times we can offer referrals to other services.
Right.
And he had said that he has bipolar disorder, and his insurance changed at work, and his insurer didn't cover his medication anymore. And so he went as long as he could to try to pay for it out of pocket, eventually couldn't, went without his medication, and his whole life sort of imploded.
Right. Again, one small thing can change your life dramatically.
And I mean, he doesn't choose to have mental illness.
Right.
No one does.
Yeah.
And I think everyone can understand how that can happen. Mental illness affects so many people. Everybody knows someone that has battled with mental illness, and how debilitating that can be if you can't access services. So he's doing his best to rebuild his life, and we're happy to be there. We're happy that we can provide food in the meantime. he has a place to come where he feels cared for.
Right.
And that's something I take a lot of pride in.
And how many people do you guys serve per week?
So we serve about 1,200 people a month.
A month. Wow.
Every month.
Every month.
And 51% are children, and 14% are elderly. And so the majority are folks that don't have other ways to
Right.
get food.
Right. We're coming up on taking our second break. When we come back after the break, I want to talk to you a little bit about, you had mentioned other services. So what are some of the other providers in Westfield that you guys work with to aid residents in maintaining their lives? So we're going to take a break. Thanks some of our underwriters.
with convenient full banking services in Westfield, West Springfield, East Longmeadow, Agawam, Feeding Hills, Springfield, Southwick, as well as Enfield and Granby, Connecticut. Visit us on the web at westfieldbank.org.
Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Commercial Distributing Company of Westfield. Now in its third generation of family ownership, Commercial is one of the premier beverage distributors of Western Massachusetts. The Plasek family and the staff of Commercial Distributing wishes you good times throughout the year and urges you to drink responsibly.
Wednesday mornings from 6 till 8, it's Tina Gorman with Wake Up Wednesday.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Live around the world.
You're listening to the Westfield News Radio Show on WSKB 89.5 FM Westfield.
Here's your host, the owner of the Westfield News Group, Patrick Barry.
Good morning again, everyone. 6:43 a.m., Thursday, October 25th, 2018. 41 degrees, getting up to 48. So the biggest difference between now and later, when we hit our high temperatures, it'll be light out. Other than that, it's really not much difference. 7 degrees is really not a big swing. Today, mostly sunny. It'll be nice and clear today. Tomorrow, Friday, similar, warmer, 53 degrees. And then we have got a nasty nor'easter coming in on Saturday. No snow, just a lot of rain. And if you go back in time 7 years to 2011, we had a nor'easter right about this same time, the October snowstorm, which a lot of people remember. But it doesn't look like we will have that this year. However, if you're up in the Berkshires and the higher elevations, you could see some heavy wet snow before daybreak on Saturday. I doubt you'll get much, but hey, I'm not a meteorologist, so I have no idea. Pete's not here. I don't know where Pete went, but we usually talk about tropical storms. Super Typhoon U2, not YUTU is not the band U2. Super Typhoon U2 is in the West Pacific. You don't need to get your milk and your bread just yet because it's still 7,824 miles from Westfield, and it's moving west. So I don't know if we'll even need to get anything there. But what's interesting is that my hurricane tropical storm app isn't talking about Willa, which I guess slammed Mexico and is now heading into Texas. So that's what's going on at 6:45 a.m. We're live back here in the flow with Rob and Joe have dubbed it Studio 1A. I'm not sure I like that.
It's a great space, though.
It is nice, but isn't Studio 1A isn't that Saturday Night Live or?
I don't know.
It's one of those. It's one of those NBC things.
We can do better.
Yeah, we can do better. Sorry, Rob. We're gonna come up with we're coming up, Pete, with a better name than Studio 1A. I don't like it. Rebecca and I have decided nope. So
not
anyway,
creative enough.
Not yet, exactly. Not creative. From the school that's creative. So Rebecca Hart is my guest this morning. She's the executive director of the Westfield Food Pantry. One of the things I want to talk about over the next segment to the top of the hour is, and you've referenced this and alluded to this, for the first part of the show, other services that you can direct people to. Mm-hmm. So when a client comes to you, maybe it's a first-time client, maybe it's somebody you've been working with for many years, life changes. What other entities or service providers in Westfield do you guys work with and have close partnerships with that you recommend people to?
So we are the largest source of food and food feeding program in Westfield. We've been around since 1986, and we have learned, and I've definitely learned over the years, that we need to work efficiently and not duplicate services. One program we really work with through the summer months is the Boys and Girls Club, and their summer feeding program. So
Yep.
if you have children under 18, you can go to various parks around town or the Boys and Girls Club and have breakfast and lunch for
Right.
school-age children. And that's a great program for folks that don't have enough to feed their children.
At the beginning of the summer and throughout the summer in the Westfield News and the Penny Saver, we will list those locations, where you can go within the city of Westfield and get that food.
For housing, we refer a lot to Domus and Ann Titi's projects of around town. She's done a phenomenal job in providing low and moderate income housing.
Right.
So we refer people to her if they're in need of housing. We can help folks apply for SNAP, food stamp assistant, right at the food pantry. Since Mass Health and the Health Connector has changed, we now refer folks to Noble Hospital. They can help with
Okay.
health insurance needs.
Oh, that's true. Yep,
Or,
yep.
The world seems to be going to like self-service. So it's
You're
harder
right.
to access some of those services, but we work with the Westfield Athenaeum
Okay.
and their tech librarian, Becky Clark. She's
Yep.
great at helping people
Right.
with accessing computers and things like that.
Good. It's funny. Again, everything's going more towards self-service, but again,
Right.
what that means is less human work.
That's right.
So jobs aren't as plentiful as they once were. Sad but funny story. When my oldest daughter graduated high school, I forget who. It was one of her fellow students spoke. It was valedictorian, salutatorian, something like that, and it was right about the time the Mass Turnpike Authority was eliminating toll booths. And this kid got up there and he jokingly said, he goes, well, I had my life planned out for me to be a toll collector, but now that's changed. And it's interesting. Everybody laughed at it, but in hindsight, you kind of look at it and you go, some of these jobs that, God, growing up, whoever would have thought there would not be human beings taking tolls on the turnpike?
I know.
Who thought there wouldn't be a person, taking your order at a fast food place? It's a kiosk now. At the turnpike, you don't even have to see anybody. You
Or
just
Target.
Yeah,
can't-
right.
You have to check yourself out.
Amazon is opening humanless places.
I know.
It's all robot driven. So, retail stores. I mean, aside from their big warehouses, but life changes. So, and you've seen some of that. So having some of these other Westfield services that you can kind of steer your clients to is incredibly beneficial, I have to imagine.
It is, and I think we all have common goals. We're all looking for
Right.
the betterment of Westfield residents, and especially the children. I mean, there's hundreds of studies that correlate poor school performance with
Right.
hunger.
Exactly.
You can't dispute it.
Right.
And of course now.
But think about it just as an adult. Think about how you do your job if you're hungry.
Right.
You really don't.
It's true.
You can't perform well.
And of course, obesity, and as that's become more of a problem, it's related to poverty. The 10 poorest states are also the 10 heaviest. I mean, I have clients say, I can buy one apple or 2 hot dogs, for the same dollar.
Oh,
what am I going to do for my kids?
Well, you look at some of these fast food deals. Fast
Right.
food is not the healthiest food choice out there, but you can get a handful of items for $3, $4, $5 and be full, but it's not healthy. But you can't unfortunately go to a store and for $3, $4, $5 and feed yourself with a meal.
Right. And that's something that we have worked on over the years, and we had a community garden at Westfield State to provide more fresh and nutritious food for our clients.
Henry Weffing Garden?
It was.
Yeah.
And Henry was a dear friend of mine and dear
Yeah.
friend of the pantries, and he passed away unexpectedly. And we really haven't found someone to fully carry the torch. They're still doing some, but it was just such a passion of his.
So educate us all on the community garden.
Sure.
Could anybody go and garden?
Yes, and
Or-
anyone still can.
Okay.
So if anyone is interested, if you're an avid gardener and this is something you're passionate about, email me, director@westfieldfoodpantry.org. And true to all nonprofits, any email on our website comes to me.
There you go.
Whether it says director or info or whatever, it all comes to me.
I know that feeling.
So feel free to email. I would love to have someone take up that cause again, because he probably put in 4 hours
Take
a
up
day.
which part of it? Just running the
The actual gardening. So
Okay.
we've worked with Berkshire Bank in the past, and they've planted it, but that's the easy part of gardening. It's the weeding, it's the maintenance, it's the harvesting.
Right.
That's the part that we need a volunteer or several volunteers.
Have you worked at all with either of the senior centers, Westfield, Southwick, or the Hill Towns, maybe some of the seniors might be interested in gardening, just to remain active.
I know we've had some folks come in, and it's a big. Henry really was ambitious, and he had a very
Right,
big plot.
right.
And then we had our own little plot. So I would love that.
Okay.
I would absolutely love to do that.
Now's not the time to garden. It's October.
But now's the time to plan, because
Absolutely. But that's a great idea. It's just sustainability. You just the low cost initial investment of planting the crops and buying the seeds. I'm not a gardener, so I don't know. So
I'm not really either.
So I have to imagine you got to buy seeds for corn stalks and carrots and peppers. I have to imagine, right?
Well, one thing we did this year that was great was Brian Kelly reached out from Kelly Home and Garden, and he had a promotion that if you came in to his shop and said, I'm going to plant an extra row in my garden for the food pantry, he would provide the plants.
Right.
So my son and I did that, and we planted cucumbers, and we did bring them into the pantry, and we did see quite a bit come in. But that's what we want, especially the children. We want them to have access to fresh food.
So that brings up a good point. So can anyone with the home garden, if they have extra stuff, bring it in?
Absolutely. We love that. We just had a huge donation of Hubbard squash and butternut squash. We've worked with a couple.
That time of year.
Yep. We've had a couple local gardeners
Wow.
bring in lots of zucchini. Zucchini does really well around here.
Now, it's interesting because that's a whole nother avenue of generating food for the pantry is locally grown food.
Absolutely.
It's healthy. I mean, you can't beat it. Although the store bought stuff for the most part is fresh anyway. But it gives it's satisfaction growing a crop and harvesting it and seeing it throughout the season, and then because I know most. I have to imagine. Let me rephrase that. Most families that have a home garden, the garden produces more than they can eat.
Right.
And you get to a point, and I remember, I can't stand tomatoes. Vine ripe tomatoes, I hate them. But when I was a kid, my father would have tomato plants, maybe 2 plants for a family of 6, but you couldn't keep up.
Right.
Maybe that's why I don't like tomatoes, because they, you just couldn't. So anybody who has a home garden, you're going to have a point where your garden is producing more than your family can eat. But so how do they get that to you?
So anytime we're open, you can drop it off. You can drop off any donations during our regular hours, Monday, Tuesday, and Friday, 10 a.m. till noon, or Thursday evenings from about 5 if you're coming with donations to 6:30. And if you're out, that doesn't work for you, you can come outside those hours and we'll make arrangements. But what I love is seeing home gardeners provide produce. We've had a couple instances where they've seen children be really excited for things that you would never think, like kale. We had Henry was big on kale, so we did lots of kale chips. And you have these little kids excited for kale, which is a huge win. If I feel pride about anything, it's that we have young kids excited about.
You're a kale fan?
I like kale. You're not a kale fan?
No.
Have you had it in soup?
Pete?
Oh, man.
Soup, yeah.
Kale?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have this joke. My wife tried making kale several times, and I said to her, I go, hey, I got a tip for you. I said, before you put the kale in the pan, line the pan with a little bit of oil or a little bit of butter. And then, because when you put the kale in, it makes it much easier to scrape off when you're putting it in the trash. I'm not a
good day
I'm not.
for kale.
I'm not a. Yeah. She made those kale chips once. It was.
All right, people are playing
like,
fast and loose with the term chip. That's the first mistake.
Exactly.
Fried kale. That's what it is. Well, you do it
it's
either way.
baked. Yeah, but it was.
It's crispy and you don't find it satisfying?
No. It was, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was so thin, and it was almost like it dissolved on your tongue. Almost, it was that.
It does turn like a little.
Yeah,
powdery.
and it sort of stuck to your teeth. It was. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I'm not a kale fan.
All right. Well, what would you like
But
to
there
grow?
are a lot of
We'll
people
take
who
it.
are.
Yeah.
Sorry, we got see, you got me triggered with the kale. No, I'm just kidding. But again, there are a number of vegetables out there. I mean, even if I don't like kale, grow it and donate it.
Absolutely.
I
think it's easy to grow with the amount that we get in.
Well, I have to. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of things that are easy to grow in this area. You talked about all your squashes, very easy to grow, cucumbers, tomatoes, good God, kale, lettuce.
Onions, potatoes. We get a lot of, like, the best potatoes. People come in raving about how good the potatoes are. Wyben Union Church,
Yep.
they have a couple ladies that garden for us, and the production level is just astounding. They come twice a week.
What about like eggs? Do people? I mean, I know a lot of not a lot, but many homeowners like to have their own chickens. But again, you have to imagine they produce more than.
We do not receive eggs, and eggs could be a little bit of a tricky subject because of how they're stored. And we are inspected by USDA, and we have to make sure that, for food safety, our clients are some of the most vulnerable.
That's true. Good point. Yep.
So vegetables and produce is a little bit.
So do you have partnerships, or do you know any, like, livestock farmers? Maybe that raise chickens or pigs or anything like that then can donate, the excess back to you guys.
So at this time, it's more of a one-way street, but it's great. So what we do is any food that's out of date, canned, or if we get some bread that's kind of moldy, we work with 2 pig farmers in the area, and they pick it up, and they'll open the cans and feed their pigs and recycle the cans. So we are practically zero waste.
Oh, that's excellent.
Which is great. So we're not throwing food away. If food comes in, out of date, that's where it goes.
Very good. We're creeping up on the top of the hour. 7 o'clock is fast approaching. Rebecca Hart, Executive Director for the Westfield Food Pantry, is my guest this morning. Fascinating information about what goes on at the facility at 101 Meadow Street. So we're going to take a break, thank some of our underwriters, and we'll be right back.
Listen to reason, the season is calling. Stand in the place where you live. Now face no. Think about direction, wonder why you haven't. Now stand in the place where you were. Now face where. Think about the place where you live, wonder why you would be falling. Listen to reason, reason is calling. Your feet are going to be on the ground. Your head is there to move you around. So stand. Now face no. Think about direction, wonder why you haven't. Now stand. Now face no. Think about the place where you
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Westfield Bank. For more than 160 years, Westfield Bank has been an important community presence and commercial leader in the Pioneer Valley, with convenient full banking services in Westfield, West Springfield, East Longmeadow, Agawam, Feeding Hills, Springfield, Southwick, as well as Enfield and Granby, Connecticut. Visit us on the web at westfieldbank.org.
Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Commercial Distributing Company of Westfield. Now in its third generation of family ownership, Commercial is one of the premier beverage distributors of Western Massachusetts. The Plasek family and the staff of Commercial Distributing wishes you good times throughout the year and urges you to drink responsibly.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
Wednesday mornings from 6 till 8, it's Tina Gorman with Wake Up Wednesday.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Live around the world.
You're listening to the Westfield News Radio Show on WSKB 89.5 FM Westfield.
Here's your host, the owner of the Westfield News Group, Patrick Barry.
Good morning again, Westfield, 7:04 a.m., Thursday, October 25th, 2018. Just about 40 degrees outside your door, getting up to 48 today. The sky is brightening. I see some clouds off to the west as we look out of studio. We got to come up with a better name. Studio.
I like 1A. It's going to stick.
Well,
I'm going to make it stick.
Well, wait a minute. What's the
Room number?
Yeah, room number.
I don't know. I'll have to go look.
See, that's what it should be.
Okay. I'll go look in the...
Studio 54 or whatever.
That one's probably trademarked.
Hey, if you need a disco ball, I got one my kids don't use anymore. We can put it right in here. I got the light for it and everything.
No.
Come on. Oh, that... Pete, next Thursday, for those of you watching us on Channel 15, next Thursday morning, we're going to have a disco ball in here.
You can find out with Brian how you're going to hang on his pristine new ceiling.
Well, it's funny. This is the same type of ceiling I have in my basement where our disco ball is hung.
Okay. No.
Yeah, and I've got a little spotlight off to the side that shines right on it. So when the girls were little, we'd turn it on and it'd be disco party in the basement. Absolutely.
That's all you need to give high schoolers is a disco ball. Okay.
It's all. Oh God. See, this is how we brainstorm. This is how things get done.
Go put it up in the studio at Westfield State. The college kids will enjoy it far more than the high schoolers will.
There you go. There you go. We are all waking up with the Red Sox up 2-0. This is a good thing.
And none of us won Mega Millions.
And none of us won.
Some person in South Carolina is really wealthy right now.
I'm really pissed.
Why is that?
Because I wanted that.
I know.
I mean,
you know what?
I really wanted. I just wanted a portion of it. I just wanted to win my $2 back.
I already have a plan. So if I won even a $40 million one, I'd be good.
Well, you know what? And it's funny.
I'll never win anything because I can't even win at a casino. But you know.
And it's interesting because my wife laughed at me because I did buy a ticket. How could you not? Right? Well, she didn't. But anyway, I go.
Why not?
Yeah. You got to be in it to win it.
That's right.
A few weeks ago, I didn't buy a ticket, and I get up in the morning, and I said, nobody won, what was it, Mega Millions? I go, nobody won Mega Millions last night. She goes, what were your numbers? I go, I didn't buy a ticket. She looks at me like, well, how do you expect to win? I go, well, we're nice people. They're not just going to show up and give us the money. She goes, no, that's not how it works.
You still have another shot because Powerball is, what, $670 million?
I think that was last night, wasn't it? Or
yeah, nobody won that one.
I don't know. So anyway, the Red Sox were up 2-0. Which would you rather have?
What?
Red Sox World Championship or $1 billion?
$1 billion. I can do a lot more good with that.
You could buy the Red Sox.
I don't want to buy the Red Sox.
There you go.
That's enough aggravation.
So 40 degrees outside your door. It will get brighter as the day goes on. It's overcast right now. Speaking of the Red Sox, I just pulled up the old Los Angeles forecast. The high temp, and I misquoted earlier, that it is going to be the daily high temperature will be, much nicer. But game time it's going to be perfect. Game time will be in the 70s.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Exactly. You can't beat that. And that's out in Los Angeles, California. City of Angels. So we are live back here in whatever the heck this room is.
I think you went to go look.
I first started calling it Pete's Playground, because it's got all the bells and whistles. It's the radio station, TV station, whatever. That didn't take hold. So the multimedia studio, that just doesn't have a good ring to it. I like Olari's Studio 1A, but I think that's taken. It's old. We got to come up with a new one. But here we are. We're at Westfield Technical Academy. Rebecca Hart, from the executive director from the Westfield Food Pantry, is my guest this morning. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
What did you say when we first went to break? Wow, that first hour went quick.
It did.
See, it does. It always does. It goes real fast. Especially when you're talking about interesting things.
That's
right.
And
I that's one thing I love about doing this show. Do I enjoy getting up at 4:30 to do this show? Absolutely not. But the guests you included, I always learn something, and it's fantastic and fascinating to hear what's going on around us. What you do day to day, week to week, month to month is one of those things. I would venture to guess a good chunk of Westfield doesn't really understand. But then there's a population of Westfield who literally would die without the services you guys provide, and it's important to get the message out there. Especially as we get into the giving season. It's great to give, but your comment was people are hungry every single day of the year. So if you're inclined to give to the Westfield Food Pantry, yes, now's a good time to do it, but don't forget about March, don't forget about June, don't forget about September. And speaking of which, people are hungry every day of the year, but do you go through like swings? Do you see peaks and valleys of need of people during different parts of the year?
Absolutely. We definitely see an uptick through, I want to say, late fall and into winter. And part of that is heating costs. Part of that are we have a lot of seasonal help, people that are landscapers. If we don't have a particularly snowy winter, they're not
working
plowing.
as much.
They're
right.
not shoveling. They'll come to the food pantry.
So while most of us are going, please no snow, please no
Right.
snow, it affects a segment of the population.
Yep, it absolutely does. We also get something always happens, I want to say February, March, where our regular donor base probably gets their Christmas bills. And so they
Right.
don't donate at the same level. And folks are getting their heating bills, or they're coming from Christmas, and they come to the food pantry.
Right,
We're
just you
there
get
for
a
those
lull.
months.
Yeah.
And speaking of Christmas, one of the programs that I'm really excited about that we've done for the last few years is we've worked with Westfield Public Schools, and we've worked with the 50 to 75 homeless or in transition unaccompanied teens to provide Christmas and I don't even want to say presents because the kids fill out a list of what they need, their favorite colors, sizes for clothing.
Right.
And they write.
It's a needs list, not necessarily
It is a needs
wish
list.
list. Yeah.
And it's so modest. Everyone needs socks, underwear,
Staples,
laundry soap.
toothbrushes, deodorant, yes. Simple
I
stuff
spent
like
a lot of money on Old Spice Swagger.
There
Seems
you
to be the scent that.
Swagger.
Yes, Old Spice Swagger is the
Wow,
preferred
I may
smell.
have to head over to the health and beauty aid section today and check out the Swagger.
But clippers, a lot of the
Yeah.
boys want clippers because they can't afford haircuts.
Right.
So they're able to cut their own hair. Sweatshirts.
And who do you work with in this? And,
So-
and can the general public get involved with
They
this?
can. And so what happens is it just started with a conversation between Stefan Zaporowski and myself about this need. And he's so phenomenal for the district because he sees a need and he will address it. And it's made my job a pleasure. So we worked with guidance counselors and principals from Tech Academy and also Westfield High. And they opened up to students that they thought weren't going to get anything for Christmas, and students in need, and students also could just come in and they fill out a form.
So I will challenge you.
Mm-hmm.
If you get me the list of needs, I'll put it in the papers.
I would love that.
So get it to me.
Wonderful.
See?
Fantastic.
Excuse me. So get me that list. And if you need a drop-off point, I'll make the Westfield News a drop-off point, whatever
Great.
you need to do. So,
And this is wonderful because this year's different. In
Excuse me.
years past, we've had a pool of money and we've done the shopping.
right.
Here we go. The person that had lined up the $5,000 to $10,000 annual, he was downsized out of his job, and so it has to be an employee that requests this money.
Okay.
And he's not there anymore. So what are we going to do? Not have Christmas? Of course not.
Exactly.
You know,
You can't cancel Christmas.
can't cancel Christmas or any
God.
holiday.
What are you, the Scrooge?
So we will have the students fill out their forms. I will get you a list, and that's what's so amazing about Westfield is I have complete confidence. I'm taking a huge leap of faith that I'm going to
Right.
get these lists and that we're going to meet the need, and I know it
But
will
Westfield
happen.
Westfield is a very giving community.
It is.
You know, it's
Former
interesting.
American Epic was saying that he's down in Yarmouth now, and he says it's amazing the difference between
yeah.
here and there.
Yeah.
Of just even services. He says, I knew people I could call and count on to get something done. He says, not only do I not know who to call, but there is no one to call down there.
It's after Labor Day. There's not many people on the
Right.
Cape.
Well, that's what he's saying.
Sure.
He's saying it's a whole different animal. He said he was so spoiled up here when he was the administrator here.
You know, it's interesting because I want to say it was Bill Parks who mentioned this to me once years and years ago. Bill Parks is the head of the Westfield Boys and Girls Club. I was commenting about how many nonprofits there are in Westfield. There are a lot
There are
of
a lot.
nonprofits. And Bill's point was, he goes, think about it, like any business, you go where your customers are. So nonprofits there are a lot of nonprofits in Westfield because people give. So Westfield residents will give back as needed. So a lot of nonprofits are here. I mean, you know, you got the Westfield Whip Museum doing, an auction for services this Friday night. There's a nonprofit. You know, you got the YMCA doing their awards dinner tonight. I mean, there are all these nonprofits in town, but they're all successful because of everybody that resides here gives back, which is wonderful.
I recently joined the Westfield Community Foundation for Education.
Oh, there you go.
And
That's
a great organization. Right. They're giving grants back to the schools, and
Right.
it's successful, like you say, because people address a need and they'll support that need.
So one of the things that's the bell, that's 714 bell. We don't hear it as loudly in here as we used to. When we were for the end of the last school year, we were doing this show from the stage in the Tiger's Pride restaurant. First time that bell went off, almost gave me a heart attack. I wasn't sure what it was. I haven't been in a school in many, many years. So, but one thing I don't want to gloss over, and you've kind of mentioned this a couple of times, is the amount of school-age students in need in Westfield. Ann Lentini from Domus remodeled the old Red Cross building on Broad Street to house homeless high school kids and kids. I think it's kids up to age 20 or something like that. But these are homeless kids. These kids who don't have, And when Ann first mentioned that to me, I was blown away that Westfield has this issue. But you deal a lot with that yourself, right?
We do. It's a problem that doesn't have an easy solution, and Ann's program is great, starting with housing.
Right.
And she does offer her wraparound services for students.
What do you mean by
that are there.
wraparound services?
Well, she makes sure that they have food and access to health care if they need it, and application assistance for various things.
Oh, okay.
My church that I attend has supported some of that programming and also outfitting it.
That's another good one. The churches in town, do you have relationships with, there are many, many churches in Westfield. Do you have relationships with the churches? Do they help out in any way?
The churches are huge supporters of the work we do. First Congregational Church, Second Congregational Church, Central Baptist,
Good.
Church of the Atonement.
Well, we're talking about St. Mary's because the St. Vincent de Paul is right around
and we
right
work
around the
in
corner.
cooperation together. Sometimes we'll get a huge donation. We just can't keep it, so we'll call Forum House or Salvation or Samaritan.
So what you guys need is like packaged foods or money or
we need money because our buying power is so much greater. So you had asked us where food comes from. About 50% of our food comes from the food bank. And what that means is if you go into Big Y and they're having a sale on pasta for $1 for a pound, it's pretty good. but I can buy it for 19 cents a pound up at the food bank.
Oh, up in
Hatfield.
Hatfield, right.
So I have so much more buying power with monetary donations. That's especially important going into the spring.
Right. So, but people can't drop off cooked food.
No, we do
Right,
not
okay.
accept cooked food.
And again, I want to make sure we clarify, some of the cans and can'ts. So if you have a party at your house and you've got all this leftover food, you don't want to just throw it out. That unfortunately you can't take down to you, right?
No, unfortunately we can't
Yeah.
take that. Fresh produce from your garden, we'd
Right,
love.
okay.
We've had folks who've had packaged food like that unopened packages of whatever for that party. We're happy to take and
Right.
distribute.
Well, you and Pete were talking about couponing earlier,
That's
and
right.
there are some folks in town who are what was the
Extreme.
phrase?
Super couponers.
Super couponers, extreme couponers, whatever the phrase you want to use. But that's another great thing is if you coupon and you find yourself with a small convenience store in your
Yes.
basement, you might have a problem.
You want to
However,
unload some of your stock.
yeah, you want to
right.
you want to unload some of your stock. Contact
And we
you
take
guys.
personal care items as well. So
So it's not just
toothpaste-
food.
That's right. Toothpaste, toothbrush, laundry soap, all that sort of stuff.
Very good. On that note, we're going to take a break. It's coming up on 7:18 in the morning. We're going to take a break. Again, thanks some of our underwriters. Rebecca Hart, Executive Director of the Westfield Food Pantry, has been my guest this morning. We got a couple more segments left with you, and then it's In the Flow with Rob and Joe. We'll be right back.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donuts shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Commercial Distributing Company of Westfield. Now in its third generation of family ownership, Commercial is one of the premier beverage distributors of Western Massachusetts. The Plasek family and the staff of Commercial Distributing wishes you good times throughout the year and urges you to drink responsibly.
Wednesday mornings from 6 till 8, it's Tina Gorman with Wake Up Wednesday.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Live around the world.
You're listening to the Westfield News Radio Show on WSKB 89.5 FM Westfield.
Here's your host, the owner of the Westfield News Group, Patrick Barry.
Good morning again, everyone. 7:25 a.m. 41 degrees outside your door on Thursday, October 25th, 2018. Only getting up to 48 degrees today, so not much warmer than it is now. The sun is starting to pop. During the break, we were talking about the sun is coming up over the Westfield Technical Academy building and hitting some trees that are in full-on foliage over by Yockham Field. Absolutely beautiful look this morning, the way the oranges and yellows and greens are popping on those trees and the way the sunlight's hitting them. So if you're heading east, be careful. The sun in your eyes. The sun is not a bad thing because on Saturday you will not see that bright shining ball in the sky. We're getting a nor'easter, nearly 2 inches of rain on Saturday, high of only 45 degrees, and it's going to be a washout.
That will bring the leaves down.
That will bring the leaves down. So yeah, it's going to be a miserable, miserable day on Saturday, unless you're Mike Griffin and Mary Levy, who are getting married Saturday afternoon. So I'm going to that wedding. That'll be a good one. But after Saturday, Sunday the 28th, clouds clear out. It'll be rainy early in the morning, but clouds will start to clear out and jumps up to 55 degrees on Sunday. Monday the 53rd. Monday the 53rd. Woo! There's more days in October than we thought. Monday the 29th will be 53 degrees. Tuesday, the 30th, 50. For those of you preparing a trick-or-treat next Wednesday night, October 31st. There have been some comments on the old social media, the old World Wide Web there.
Yes.
When is trick-or-treating?
Well, I know there's a trunk-or-treat coming up, I think, this weekend.
But the question is, when is trick-or-treating?
As soon as it gets dark on Halloween?
Yeah,
No?
usually
It depends on the
traditional.
age of your kid. But it's always on Halloween. Trick-or-treating is Halloween. Right, Mr. Figgy? Trick-or-treating is
so.
Halloween. Oh, thank you. So trick-or-treating is always in Westfield, in the greater Westfield area. It's always October 31st. And depending on the age of your kid, you might want to go out a little bit before dark, maybe 6-ish.
That's probably when I'll take
Yeah.
my 5-year-old out.
Or if the kids are a little bit older, maybe middle school, high school, it's after dark, But usually by 8:30, it's wrapped up.
Yeah, it's gone earlier in recent years, I feel.
So anyway, next Wednesday, October 31st, is Halloween, and trick-or-treating will take place anywhere between 5:30 and 8:30. All right?
Be ready.
Exactly.
Are you ready with your candy?
I'm ready with my pumpkin launcher. So any kid that comes up the driveway better know how to stop, drop, and roll. No, I kid. And then, believe it or not, 1 week from today is November. Yeesh. November's here already. Speaking of November, next Thursday, November 1st, Kim Lee from MHA Kim's a friend of the radio show. She's been on a few times. Kim is coming on next Thursday, the 1st. Thursday, the 8th, I've got a couple of the members of the Westfield Youth Commission coming on. Thursday, the 15th. It's a split show. Julie Barnes from Westfield Veteran Services is doing the early block. Joe Mitchell, City Advancement Officer, doing the second block. And then a month from now, Thursday, the 22nd, is Thanksgiving. So there we go. And then the 29th, and we're into December, and before you know it, it's Christmas. Every night I complain. I get home from work, and I do whatever I need to do. Got to do it quickly because daylight is waning. And then I complain. I go, I can't believe it's 6:10 and it's dark out already. However, 2 months from now, it's already turning the other way.
That's right.
So after December 21st, it starts getting lighter. After December 22nd. So looking forward to that. So that lovely voice you keep hearing chiming in with me is Rebecca Hart, Executive Director of the Westfield Food Pantry. Thanks again for joining me.
Thanks again for having me.
Having fun?
I'm having a great time.
It goes faster than you thought, right?
It does go faster than I thought.
See, a lot of people don't know that. So, Rebecca is the Executive Director of the Westfield Food Pantry. There's, the Food Pantry is one of those entities here in town that flies under the radar to a lot of people, but offers a tremendous service to, unfortunately, a lot of residents in Westfield, $1,200 a month that need some sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Food subsidy, I guess. Some way to get access to food.
So let me say how you can use the food pantry, because we didn't
even practice that segue.
So if you live in Westfield and you're in need of food, come down.
Is it only Westfield residents?
It is only Westfield residents.
Okay.
It's pretty much run that way at all area food pantries. You use your food pantry in your own hometown.
So the community food table in Southwick helps Southwick in the
That's
Hilltowns.
right.
So
we do not have income restrictions.
Okay.
So you need to bring proof that you're a Westfield resident. If your current ID has that,
What if
your
you're
address.
homeless?
If you're homeless, we will also serve you.
Okay.
And we accommodate that need. If you don't have refrigeration, if you need pop tops versus you don't have a can opener, like the really basics, we are able.
Didn't even think of that.
Mhm.
Right. Huh.
We also try to accommodate dietary restrictions, gluten-free, things like that.
Oh, interesting. So anybody, Westfield, 42,000 people living in Westfield, you have 1,200 people a month.
That's right.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. And we also support the in-school pantries at Highland Elementary and some of the other elementary schools.
So the 1,200 people that you're serving a month, is that number higher or lower than it had been, over the course of the last decade?
It's significantly higher. When I started, it was about
Really?
750 people a month.
Holy smokes.
And our largest month has topped out close to 1,500 people.
Wow.
So to receive food, you just come to the location at Meadow Street, 101 Meadow Street.
Corner
You'll
of
come
White
in.
Street.
Yep, corner of White and Meadow.
Okay. We still
And-
haven't looked up. Maybe, Mr. Figgy, do you know, was Casey Ice on White Street? Oh, I was off a street.
Ooh,
Thank
close.
you. Close.
So we don't have income restrictions. Some pantries do, but we don't feel income tells the whole story. We
Right,
have lots of
right.
work. In Westfield, we have so many working people that still are hungry. So if you have income restrictions,
Right. Yeah, Pete,
not
and I were
gonna eat.
talking about this earlier.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, with the current economic status of the environment that we live in, you might have a full-time job,
Mm-hmm.
that might pay, above minimum wage, but it's still, all you need is one tragedy, one medical issue,
Mm-hmm.
your employer no longer offers benefits, anything like that can trigger, a certain financial hardship to your family, which means you're gonna need help somewhere.
that's right. And we're happy to be there and to be able to provide food and
So now,
other assistance.
and you work with a number of other agencies in the city. I mean, I know in your building, you guys, you don't share space, but you guys are across the hall from the soup kitchen, right?
Right, and there's a lot of confusion as to Westfield Food Pantry and our community table soup kitchen. We are in the same building. We are completely separate. We pay separate rents, and we just happen to be in the same building. They're a
Right.
soup kitchen where you're going to go and get a meal. You can
Okay.
show up and you get a meal.
You're going to get a hot meal. You're going to sit down
Right.
at a table and eat.
And that's
Right.
also all volunteer based too. I
Right.
mean, all these nonprofits, they rely on the volunteers of this community
Again,
true.
who come out night after night.
It's funny you say that. We talked about it earlier about, there are so many nonprofits in Westfield. The thing to understand is in some of the nonprofits, you might have, one paid employee, and it might be a part-timer, but the vast, vast majority of the nonprofits are run by volunteers. They're just
Absolutely, and we could always use volunteers. It's interesting. Something else that's changed in the 9 years since I've been here is a lot of folks that are retiring on the earlier end are raising kids all over again because
I
the
know.
cost of childcare is so high.
Well, it's funny. Yeah, Tina Gorman from the Westfield Council on Aging Senior Center, they have a program, Grandparents Raising Grandchildren. It's for a whole host of reasons. Grandparents are raising grandchildren, but yeah, those grandparents need the assistance because they're on fixed incomes.
Right.
Now they've been given these younger kids or middle school age kids or whatever the age might be, but they can't afford to feed a family anymore. So I'm sure they're visiting your
They are, and we also work with local churches for back to school programs. We did backpacks this year and
Right.
school supplies. I know for my kindergartner, the school supply list, I couldn't believe
Right.
how big the school supply list was for a 5-year-old.
Oh, I know.
So I can't imagine if you had
They don't just get glue, Elmer's glue, a pencil,
15
and a
glue
pen.
sticks.
15 glue sticks.
15 glue
How do you
sticks.
eat glue sticks? You got to have the little glue paste. We all ate that as a kid.
I know, right? I think paste has gone the way of analog.
So the hours of the Westfield food pantry, you're not open every single day to distribute, but are you open every day to accept?
We are not. We're
Okay.
open to accept while we're open, or if you make an appointment, you can either email or call. We will make an appointment to be there outside of our regular hours.
What's the email or phone number?
director@westfieldfoodpantry.org, and the phone number is 413-572-0802, and you can go to our website, www.westfieldfoodpantry.org or .com, either one.
Oh, and they
gets to
both
us.
redirect right to you.
Yep.
Okay. And how many volunteers do you have on an average day?
So on an average day, we have about 5 volunteers.
Wow.
We have an intern from Westfield State who's handling some of our social media. As you and I were talking about, social media is playing a bigger and bigger
Right,
piece in
right.
what the work we do.
Very good. And so you have the volunteers that you have each day, a wide variety of ages, or you say some, and I know some folks who who retired on the younger side, maybe in the late 50s, early 60s, and still in very good health, but didn't want to stop. So
Right.
do you get some of those folks that help
We
out?
do. So one of our longest volunteers, Dennis Stebbins, he's been with us, like 11 years.
Wow.
And he's one of those guys,
Retired
retired on the
early.
earlier
Yep.
end. He is super able-bodied, and he really connects with the clients and is so passionate about what he does. We also have a gentleman on the older end, David Lynch, who was actually Volunteer of the Year for Westfield a few years ago.
Oh, right.
He's now
Yep.
86, and
Wow.
he's still picking up bread and dessert every day.
That's a very good. You mentioned that earlier. You swing by some of the local grocery stores and pick up the day-old breads and desserts. That's every single day?
Every single day.
Okay, but the distribution happens every couple of days.
Right. And so,
okay.
and this is what's nice about being housed with the soup kitchen is that we provide all the bread and rolls that they give out for their
Oh, okay.
meals comes from Westfield Food Pantry. And then if we have excess, we will put it out on the tables for people to take home from the soup kitchen.
Oh, very good.
As I had mentioned earlier, we really are near zero waste.
That's fantastic.
It's great.
It is 7:36 in the morning. We're going to come up on our last break of the day, and then Pete's been playing. If you're in tune with the musical selections of Peter Coles, the sweet sounds of the
Musical
TJ,
stylings.
yeah, whatever it's called. Anyway, I'm stammering. Pete's been playing 1989 today, which is a teaser. Pete's been doing that because Tuesday night, December 31st at Amelia Park.
Tuesday morning.
Well, yeah, it starts.
I'll be finishing at
right,
night.
right.
Yeah.
But Tuesday, December 31st is the big first night Westfield celebration, part of the Westfield 350.
Right.
Again, a whole boatload of volunteers volunteering their time to launch the Westfield's first ever first night. It's a kid event. It's all about the kids.
Yep.
Starts at 4 p.m. Down in the Amelia Park Boys and Girls Club, Amelia Park Children's Museum facility down that compound down there. Even though the festivities start with a 4 p.m. parade of kids, Pete will be launching the Sweet Sounds.
I'll be entertaining them all morning.
Starting
at the
at
Children's
10
Museum.
a.m.
Yeah, Children's Museum.
So Pete, you're going to be doing the top 20 songs of
The last,
of 1969,
79,
1979,
yep.
1989, 1999, and 2009.
Correct.
Right? So are you going to be, so from 10 to 11 is going to be 69?
No, I'm going to
11
play
to 12?
20 all the way through the 5 decades, and then 19 all the way through the 5 decades, and count it down that way.
Very interesting. Look at you. The guy's actually got a plan, folks.
I do have a plan, yes.
He's not winging it like everybody else.
I usually do, but I
There you
have to have
go.
a plan
There
for
you go.
this one.
It's 7:38. We're going to take a break. Thanks some of our underwriters. And when we come back, we'll wrap up things with Rebecca.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Bay State Dental. Comprehensive dentistry at 14 convenient locations in Springfield, Chicopee, Longmeadow, West Springfield, Belchertown, East Longmeadow, Ludlow, Northampton, Greenfield, and Wilbraham, as well as 29 Broad Street in Westfield. Bay State Dental makes it a priority to help you achieve and maintain the healthy smile you deserve. On the web at baystatedental.com. Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield. Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Comcast and Xfinity.com, offering Xfinity TV, internet, home phone, and home security services. Information on all that Xfinity has to offer in the Westfield area is available online at Xfinity.com.
Wednesday mornings from 6 till 8, it's Tina Gorman with Wake Up Wednesday.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Live around the world.
You're listening to the Westfield News Radio Show on WSKB 89.5 FM Westfield.
Here's your host, the owner of the Westfield News Group, Patrick Barry.
Good. Yeah, we're back. Good morning, everyone. It is 7:45 a.m. We're live down in Studio 120. That's what we're calling it, Pete, because that's the room of the building.
Okay. Well, I'll take it under advisement when the principal comes in at 8 o'clock.
NBC calls
it's his building.
NBC calls it Studio 1A because that's the room in their building. This is Studio 120.
No, they designated Studio 1A because it wasn't a studio before that.
Well, this is now a studio, but it's the numbers on the window, Pete.
It doesn't have to be the room number. It can be
absolutely
anything.
Okay, then we're calling it Pete's Playground.
No.
There you go. Nah. So we're here at Westfield Technical Academy in Studio 120. Rebecca Hart, Executive Director of the Westfield Food Pantry, is my guest this morning. It is 40 degrees outside, getting up to 48 today. The sun is creeping up. The clouds will dissipate tomorrow. A little bit warmer than today, 53 degrees, and then Saturday is awful. The Red Sox are playing Friday night, so stay up, watch the whole game, and then sleep in on Saturday because Saturday's not going to be good. But to Pete's point, with all the rain we're getting on Saturday and the wind, there will be virtually no leaves left on trees, I have to imagine. So that means a good deal of raking on Sunday through the rest. Halloween is next Wednesday night. Downtown trick-or-treating, merchant trick-or-treating is tomorrow afternoon, 4 to 6 p.m. The Rag Shag is tentatively scheduled for this coming Saturday. I would venture to say it's going to be canceled. Don't take that as gospel, but by looking at the forecast...
Yeah, keep your eye open.
Yeah.
They could reschedule.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But, Saturday's just really not looking good. Really, and I'm glad they moved the Rag Shag. They used to do it on Friday nights, but I'm glad they moved it because just the traffic Friday nights, kind of trying to get through Westfield with the Rag Shag, so they moved it to a Saturday. But that's what's going on there. We're live back here in Studio 120. Rebecca Hart's my guest this morning. I'm going to keep saying it, Pete. Keep saying it. Good morning again, Rebecca. 2 hours flies by, doesn't it?
It sure does.
It is. It really does. Especially as I say all the time, you have an interesting guest, you have an interesting topic, and again, Westfield Food Pantries, and I've said it before this morning, one of those places kind of, I think, flies under the radar for a lot of people here in Westfield, but does a service to a group of Westfield residents who are in need of food each and every day. The food pantry, just to clarify, is you go and pick up groceries.
That's right.
You pick up canned foods or packaged foods or whatever it might be. That's different than the Westfield Soup Kitchen, which they happen to be in the same building, but they're two separate entities, two separate 501Cs, two separate groups of volunteers, two completely separate things, even though they're in the same building. The Westfield Soup Kitchen, you go and get a meal. So you'll sit down at a table with other Westfield residents, and you'll have a meal. Whereas the food pantry, you go and you pick up your rice, your beans, your coffee, your breads, whatever it might be, your personal hygiene items, whatever it might be. And you're open, I think you said 3 time periods per week, right?
4.
4, sorry. And those time periods again are?
Monday, Tuesday, and Friday, 10 a.m. till noon, and Thursday evenings from 5:30 to 6:30.
Perfect.
And we were open on Saturdays, but it wasn't very busy. We tried it for a couple of years, thinking maybe we would get more folks, but...
Really? I would have thought.
Isn't that surprising?
Yeah.
Thursday evenings by far is our consistent, most busy time.
So, and again,
Which speaks to our working...
Exactly.
Our
So,
working families.
knowing that, because you have Thursday evenings are busier, because of the dynamics of who comes to your place for items, does it make sense? Saturday didn't work. Does it make sense to try another night during the week?
We've talked about it. We're trying to see, we talked to clients to see if there was like a particular night, if it was a Monday or a Tuesday. The space that we rent also houses a very active AA meeting on Tuesday nights, so there's some constraints there. But it has been something we've talked about, or extending Thursday nights.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the dynamics of the users of the food pantry and how that's changed over the course of the last decade or so.
Our client base has really changed to more working people who are either underemployed or fully employed but don't make enough to support themselves and their families. We had talked about in the beginning of the show a significant amount of people who work for the schools or work as paraprofessionals, who are working in offices, who are working even as dental assistants, making $14 to $15,
Right.
$16 an hour. You just can't support a family, even yourself, on that.
Right.
Especially with student loan repayments being so high.
It's interesting. You shared a story earlier about a person who is a frequent user of the food pantry, well-educated, but the student loan debt
Right.
is so overwhelming, yet the income that they're receiving from their training doesn't cover it. So you still have to eat every single day. So they come to visit the food pantry to get some items.
And it's the length of the loans. You're not done paying off your loans in 5 years.
Yeah, it's not a car payment.
Right.
No,
You're not done in
these are-
10 years.
Right.
Some people aren't even done in 15. So they go on to have families and...
Right. It's interesting because I have a member of my staff who they're in their 40s and they're still paying off their college loans. So they've been out of school almost 20 years or thereabouts. That's what we're into nowadays. And I know Robin Olaria and Joe Langoni from the Westfield Technical Academy are huge proponents of don't necessarily go to college.
Yep.
Go to the trade school, learn something where you can graduate high school and have a very good income right out of the gate and zero college debt.
Or not only that, but a lot of the trades, they'll help you pay for your college.
Right.
Your employer will help you pay.
Right.
It's interesting because I think the three of us kind of grew up in an age where, trades, I wouldn't say were really frowned upon, but it was more of, go to college, get your college degree. The white collar work was more of the prized role in life. Yet, how many of those white collar jobs are gone?
Right. My brother-in-law, who's self-employed, he's a cabinet maker.
A robot's not going to make a cabinet.
He's doing phenomenally well. He has
Right.
flexibility. He's my go-to babysitter.
There you go.
Because he works,
Right.
for himself. And he's really happy and satisfied in his job. And it started at High School Shop. That's where he started off. So when we get frequently at the food pantry, you start talking to the clients, you get to know them. And it's, I was not set up to go to college. I'm the first in my family to graduate college, so that's a big deal.
Wow.
I did AmeriCorps because I had no way to pay for college. So, and I wasn't ready for college right out of high school. So I did a year of domestic service through the domestic branch of the Peace Corps, which is AmeriCorps. And so we try to educate some of our younger clients about this is an option for you.
Right.
see what you can explore
You know, that's a good.
before you take on this debt.
That's a good thought. Do you guys work with your clients on? I don't want to say job placement, but advice. You know, hey, have you talked to AmeriCorps? Have you talked to this company or not company? You know, these particular
Absolutely.
job placement services. Do you guys help with that?
We do, and we do a lot of referrals, and also I think because I'm, you know, AmeriCorps alum, it's something I'm passionate about.
That's a whole nother radio show, AmeriCorps.
It
'Cause I've
is.
never heard about it. I've heard of Peace Corps, but never AmeriCorps.
Okay, so it's basically the domestic branch of the Peace Corps, and I served in Providence, and they give you a stipend, which you can't live on while you're in
Right.
it, but then you receive money for college when you're done. And so it's how I started going to school, because I had no one paying for me to go to
Right,
college.
right.
But the community colleges, we post about job fairs. We're always posting things about things going on at STIC, at HCC, and trying to get just folks more information who aren't on the traditional college path and have passed the age of high school.
Right.
Who are this is no longer an option for them, but they're not quite adults. It's that gray area, like 18
Interesting.
to 24.
Interesting. But again, those are things that you can pass along now to, you know, the folks that meet some of those qualifications that come into the Westfield Food Pantry. Have you thought of this? You know.
And we had one gentleman who was young. I think he was like 19, and he was living in a tent by the river, and he really the thing that I always say that makes a difference is if you have family. If people have family in the area, most likely this is transient and they'll get up and out. But if you are alone and have no one, people are really stuck. And this young man was in this position. We were able to refer him to Domus. He received housing. We connected with a connection I had at Westfield State. He started classes. This was about 4 years ago. He's gone on to graduate. He moved to Boston. He's working for Comcast. So it's that intervention at the early level that people need.
Just to touch on that story for a second. So this was a young man who had no connection to Westfield? Family connection to Westfield?
No. Well, his story was that he grew up in foster care and aged out. And literally, like on his 18th birthday, was out.
Homeless.
Had nowhere to go. And there are programs in place.
Right.
But if you don't know about them, or you don't utilize them, or you don't want to utilize them,
then you're living in a tent down by the river.
And to some people that have grown up in foster care, that's preferred. They would rather have some autonomy and be on their own than continue with. But where do you go?
Right. And the biggest, I think, the biggest thing is this is happening in Westfield.
Mm-hmm.
This is not. We're not talking Springfield.
No.
We're not talking Holyoke, Greenfield. These things happen every single day, week in and week out, right here in Westfield. We have homeless high school kids. We have very well educated people with jobs that just don't cover the bills, and they need food every day, whether they're going to the food pantry to get grocery supplies or health and beauty aids, or personal grooming, or they're going to the soup kitchen for a meal. Mm-hmm. This is happening right here in Westfield. Your facility does a yeoman's job helping residents out. So kudos to you and your volunteer staff. I'd be saddened to think what would happen if you guys closed. And I say that about a lot of things because it's the individual parts of the community, that make us a community. And if one of those disappears, it's like a cog and a sprocket on a bike missing. It just kind of, everything's sort of not in sync anymore.
Well, and that's what we had talked about earlier was the commitment. I don't have the financial commitment, the $10,000, $5,000 to shop for the students the way I have in the past.
Right.
And I'll lay in bed and think, well, so what does that mean? Does that mean that this boy doesn't get laundry service now, and he's not going to get a backpack, and he's not going to get sometimes that hooded sweatshirt is the only sense of security that these kids have.
Yeah.
And we're like, it's not going to happen. And that's where we're blessed that Westfield will rise up and meet that need.
Do you take, like it's winter's coming, scarves, hats, gloves?
We do not take any kind of clothing item because we don't have the distribution space. There's Goodwill and Salvation Army and, the various bins around town. The sweatshirts are specific for the specific kids that we're shopping for.
Gotcha. So like this Christmas wish needs list type thing.
Exactly.
Okay.
We do have a couple knitters from Liberty Manor, though, that do knit scarves and mittens and hats, and we put those out, and those always go. They're a big hit.
Oh, good.
So we will work with knitters and the nitwits, they're called.
The nitwits. No comment. Very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, just remind us again, how do they get in touch with you? What's your location? How can people help?
Sure. So go to our website, westfieldfoodpantry.org. You can call us at 413-572-0802. You can email me directly. Anywhere on the website comes to me. And
small business.
yes, you got it. And I'd be happy to talk to you about either volunteering or receiving services or one of the many programs we're involved in. If you like to garden, we need gardeners.
Yep.
If you like shopping, we can
need
be
shoppers.
Yeah, you got it. Extreme couponers, we love you.
Just a couple of things before we depart. Cash or checks? How do you accept? Which is better?
So
Are you a tax write-off? So if
we
people
are.
donate.
Yep, we're a 501c3.
Okay.
You can donate through us. Check if your employer has matching. A lot of companies will do employer
There you go.
matching.
Okay.
We accept PayPal donations and credit card donations through our website. You can also mail checks to 101 Meadow Street or come in during open hours and donate food or cash.
Very
and we'll
good.
give you a receipt.
Very good. Rebecca, thank you so much
Thanks for having
coming
me.
in
This
this
was
morning.
great.
I really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Our time is done here, ladies and gentlemen. As I say each and every week, hopefully you've learned something as much as I have the last couple of hours. Rebecca, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next week on the Old Radio Show, I've got Kim Lee from MHA, again, another area community service for residents. But coming up next, we've got In the Flow with Rob and Joe. They're coming into Studio 120.
You're going to make it stick.
I'll see you on the radio next week.
Well, here it is. My time has come.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Westfield Bank. For more than 160 years, Westfield Bank has been an important community presence and commercial leader in the Pioneer Valley, with convenient full banking services in Westfield, West Springfield, East Longmeadow, Agawam, Feeding Hills, Springfield, Southwick, as well as Enfield and Granby, Connecticut. Visit us on the web at westfieldbank.org.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Bay State Dental. Comprehensive dentistry at 14 convenient locations in Springfield, Chicopee, Longmeadow, West Springfield, Belchertown, East Longmeadow, Ludlow,